All right, Teebs, we're back. It's been fun. It's been a fun couple days, hasn't it?
Fun. That's exactly the word I would use.
All right, so here's the thing. Here's the thing about what we're doing tonight. Tonight we wanted to take a week off from serious topics, bitching at each other over whatnot, what have you, and just get back to a good old-fashioned debate. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds like just what I need to take my mind off of other things.
So I was reading earlier today, and this is brought to us.
When did you start that off?
Okay, I walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did.
From our good friends at Kotaku, that apparently the PlayStation 5 is finally getting a price drop. It's getting a $70 price drop to $300.
It's dropping. It's dropping from what, $599 to like $589. What's happening?
So it's the exact model is the PlayStation 5 Slim model, digital only, of course, and it is now $389. And it got me to thinking.
Yeah.
We are in our 5th iteration of the Sony PlayStation, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That is correct.
That is correct.
That is correct. And the original PlayStation was the 4th generation.
Yes.
Sorry, the 3rd generation. So if this is the 5th iteration of the PlayStation, then we're in like 7th generation of consoles.
We're in the 7th generation right now. And I thought we could have a nice little conversation about, in my view, not only the greatest iteration of the Sony PlayStation, but quite possibly the greatest console ever. That's right. I'm coming in hot. I'm coming in absolutely, positively steaming. That is correct. That is correct. Run the alarm. It's fine. I'm coming in hot.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go ahead and disagree with you there, but
okay, that's fine. You can disagree with me all you want.
We can talk about it. We can have a discussion.
Here's the other thing. I've been watching a lot of Suits lately, as you know, and I am brushed up on my lawyer tactics. So you're in for it.
I'm making a broad-based statement right here. Teebs is out of the media based on rich people business. I am no longer consuming any media where rich people or upper class or the moneyed classes are the main characters. Strictly low class folks for me these days.
I would just like to point out this is coming from the person that, again, has a valet and an intern and a farrier and a private pool guy, as well as a lawn guy.
They're not private. Anybody is able to employ them if they can pay the price.
It's his own personal lawn guy.
On these guys.
It's his own personal lawn guy. And he recruited him. Honestly, I'm quite excited for the fact that you did it the right way. You gave the man a W-9. His W-2s are in good shape, so that's good. That's good on you. Doing it the right way.
We need to get off this topic. We're gonna get in trouble. We're gonna get in big trouble.
All right,
moving right along.
So the PlayStation 2, I don't know if you're aware of this, but next year turns 25 years old. And we like to celebrate it.
I did not know that.
Exactly. Yes. October 2000 is when the PlayStation 2...
2000?
Yes. Yes. As a matter of fact, yes. 2000. When you were a ripe... No, I'm not going to do that joke.
Stop. Okay.
I didn't. So, as we talk about this, let's start with the state of gaming in 2000. And again, I'm just making my full argument now, and you can debate them and pick them apart piece by piece, however you feel. What non-Sony consoles were out in the year 2000? So you had the OG Xbox. 360 didn't come out until 2005.
Did you have the Xbox in 2000?
So I did have an Xbox in 2000, but then I got a PlayStation 2 I think I got it the first month. It wasn't the opening week. I didn't get it then, but I definitely had it within that first 1-2 months. The N64 still
No.
kicking game.
Well, it was still kicking around, but actually, I can't remember if the GameCube came out in 2000. I know it came out in December or if November because I stood in line for one, but I can't.
I have a year for you. GameCube didn't come out until 2001.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right.
And then the only other non-Sony based console was the Dreamcast.
Yes. Sorry. The ill-fated Dreamcast.
The ill-fated Dreamcast. Now, would you say not necessarily a downtime for console gaming, but things were on the downturn? The technology of those three systems were starting to get a little bit old as generations of consoles do.
I think it's more than that. I think we were the video game consumer and the video game world was changing from one paradigm to a new paradigm around the time the PS2 came out.
Elaborate.
So instead of being like the super mascot driven collectathons of the previous generations,
yes,
we were moving more into like a story based and more narrative informed version of video gaming, which required different things from the consoles. So N64 didn't have the graphical capabilities, nor the audio capabilities, nor the storage ability to really convey a long, deeper narrative. Although Ocarina of Time is a great game, it's still mostly just a collective.
Right. And when you're talking about that point, we have to remind viewers or listeners and viewers on YouTube that the Xbox, the N64, and the Dreamcast were still heavily based on external memory, be it memory cards, whatnot, what have you. Not saying the PlayStation 2 did not, but I feel like that's when you were starting to really see the moving away from external storage.
And even in the PS1 generation, you already had this move towards narrative games with titles like Resident Evil, the original Silent Hill, the first Metal Gear Solid game, Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and 9. So things were already trying to get more expansive. The big problem N64 had was it was constrained by the choice to stay on cartridge for that system.
Yes.
And the Dreamcast had a similar problem where they used a proprietary disc format.
I also don't think that the Dreamcast
believe held as much as a DVD, but yeah, I think the Dreamcast disc only held 1 gig, whereas a DVD can hold like 4 or 5 gig, 4.5 gigs or so.
And that moves me to the launch of the PlayStation 2. And while I will concede that the launch day titles weren't strong, I did the research. There were 29 that launched with the PlayStation 2. But when it comes to what you could get as you're leaving the store with a PlayStation 2, first of all, launch price was $299, which I don't know, correct for inflation in 2024. I don't know what that would be. Please don't do that now. You got Tekken Tag Tournament, which was at the time probably the best fighting game available. And then
PS2 launched with Tekken Tag.
PS2 launched with Tekken Tag. I did my homework, and then it also launched with a little franchise called Midnight Club. which is the best. Don't raspberry Midnight Club. Midnight Club is the best racing franchise. I almost want to say ever, but Forza is pretty damn good. And you're talking to somebody that actually did the 24-hour racing run in Gran Turismo, in the original Gran Turismo. I have done that.
Yes, but I think the problem is Sony, and this is something that can be said for each iteration going forward. Sony has a catastrophic launch game problem.
They do.
This was a problem for the PS2, PS3, PS4, and PS5. Just no titles at launch. Whereas,
or if
by
they did have launch titles, it was titles nobody wanted.
Exactly. Whereas by comparison, the Nintendo GameCube launched with a little game called Luigi's Mansion. Not the great, not, fun, but also a game called Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader, which I burnt my fucking fingers off playing.
Your fingers, your retinas.
And the Xbox, the original Xbox, launched with a little title called Halo Combat Evolved. Ever heard of it?
I seem to have remembered LAN parties among my friends. I think this was the biggest draw to the PlayStation 2. And it was the move to the idea that your console is your entertainment hub, because the PlayStation 2 out of the box, unlike any other console before it, PlayStation, Dreamcast, etc., out of the box, you can play Region 1 DVDs. That was a huge thing.
Yeah.
When PlayStation 2 launched.
Turns out the big killer app launch title for the PlayStation 2 was the DVD player.
Yeah, the media player was the big, yeah.
But it did happen to come along right at the time when DVD was starting to overtake VHS as dominant format. I mean, we were there for that. We were in the video store. We were working there as that transition was taking place. Whereas DVDs, like, it was a niche thing. You'd have like maybe 100 or so in the store until like 2005. It's nothing but DVD. It's all DVDs at that point. So, and the like, PlayStation 2 was a very economical choice. I mean, yeah, remember like high quality DVD players were going for like $400, $400
or $500, yeah.
Right. PlayStation 2 was like, oh, it's $300 and it plays. You get video games also. Like, yeah, this is a win-win, right?
Did you buy a PlayStation 2 not at launch, but did you have it within the first 6 months, or were you just playing mine?
No, I didn't buy a PS2 until later. Again, I was still a Nintendo loyalist at that point, and I was still playing. I had a PlayStation, but I was still doing GameCube. I don't recall having a PlayStation until late, a PS2 until late.
And that's not to say that Teebs doesn't make a valid point when it comes to launch day titles for PlayStation. But I will say that Nintendo kind of has the advantage when you have, Mario and Zelda and Metroid already built in your building.
That explains it. I mean, that explains it then, but what about now? Like, Sony has recognizable franchises and things they go to. They still, like, this is what the PS5 launched with, like Spider-Man
2. Like, and this is the thing.
Where was the Naughty Dog game? Where was the God of War game? Like, why wasn't it launching with these? You want to sell systems? I guess they didn't have too much of a problem, except they couldn't produce PS5s fast enough, which is a problem, but it's one of them good problems. But
can I pose a hypothetical question to you, and I'll get back to the PS2, but I really want to broach this point about the PlayStation 4 and 5 and beyond.
I will pose a hypothetical question to you as well. I would
So
like to pose a hypothetical question to you as well.
later consoles, right? PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 specifically. I feel like new consoles are basically farms for people to play Call of Duty, and that's pretty much it. Outside of that franchise, I can't think of a really good franchise on either the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X where either console can stand on business and be like, yo, come to our side of the console aisle, we have X. And like there's nothing special about COD games going forward. I think that's all they are. I think that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are just a way for people to play COD because they don't have a PC.
Listen, this is part of your ongoing. First of all, you don't even play COD. Nobody plays COD on PC. That's ridiculous. If you're on PC, you're playing CS:GO or you're playing something for real men. But,
yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay.
But,
so you're just going to isolate yourself from an entire block of listeners. But go ahead.
Nobody that plays COD is listening to this, and
eat a dick, Call of Duty player.
Listen,
Teebs.
Listen. This is about the PS2. Do not turn this into part of your crusade against COD and COD players. Right? Let's stay on message here.
I will stay on message.
My hypothetical to you is if the Dreamcast had launched with a DVD player, would that be the console we're talking about right now?
Well, I think when the Dreamcast came out, really hurt it, right? Because as you stated before, DVDs were still kind of a niche in like 98, 99. PlayStation came out in 2000.
They launched, but wait a minute. They launched with like HD DVD. 6 months between each other.
Right.
Are you telling me the landscape was that different between September 99 and when did you say PS2 came out?
October 2000.
Did things really change that much in a year?
I think maybe Sega backed the wrong horse. I think they backed HD DVD.
Okay. The problem is, I think, and I'm sure one of the listeners will correct me, but I think Sony owned a patent on DVD technology or something to that effect. And like,
we'll check the tapes and post.
We'll check the tapes, but if you wanted to do a DVD, or if you wanted to make DVDs, you had to pay Sony anyway. And Nintendo and Sega were like, "There's no way we're going to pay a competitor. We're going to put money in their pockets." So yeah, sure, that makes sense. But ultimately, Sega disappeared, and
they just started doing games.
But they're out of the console business.
They're out of the console business completely.
And Nintendo would keep on doing its Nintendo thing because it's Nintendo, but
I agree with you. If Sega had said, "Okay, we'll pay the patent prices to use DVD technology," maybe Dreamcast would have lasted a little bit longer than what was their shelf life. 2 years, 3 years.
I think that the Dreamcast lineup was very strong up until I think that first year of Dreamcast was very strong, and I think if they had a DVD player, like they would have blown Sony away because Sony had such a long time like actually getting that's why I didn't own one at launch, because there was nothing to play unless you wanted to play Madden, and and I didn't really care that much, but that's probably I bought a PlayStation to play Madden. But
I will say that there were some, as Sony may have failed the launch aspect of PlayStation 2, but I will say some of the greatest franchises were born in the PS2 era, and that's going to be my next point. So Grand Theft Auto, maybe it wasn't born in the PlayStation 2 era, but this is the system where GTA became what it became. Because in the PS2 era, you had GTA 3, San Andreas, and Vice City.
Yes.
You also have go ahead.
You have the precursor to the Red Dead series as well, although it's
Red
not
Dead
as deep,
Revolver.
but it is there.
Kingdom Hearts, another franchise born in the PS2 era. Say what you want about that
Devil
franchise.
May Cry, born in the PS2 era.
Devil May Cry, born in the PS2 era. God of War, born in the PS2 era. It took a while, but they finally got some.
Let's not forget Dino Crisis. No, that was the PS1.
No, that was PS1. You finally got the typical like Crash Bandicoot whatever, but this was the creation of Ratchet and Clank as well as Jak and Dexter, which fun games if you've never played them.
Right, but I don't know, they're like weird because again, like the business had moved away from mascot collectathons, and those games have like narrative driven elements to them, but are also like mascot collectathon. They're weird. I don't know. I'm not into those, but
they
people
didn't
swear
hit as
by them.
well.
People love them.
They didn't hit as well as they
Cooper's in
did.
there too.
Sly Cooper's in there too.
Cooper's in there.
Guitar Hero is the other one that was born in the PS2 era. Say what you want about Guitar Hero, but goddamn it, that game was addictive as hell when it came out, and they just kept.
Sure, it started in the PS2 era.
Yes, I am sure. I did the homework. Okay. I checked the tapes. So maybe the launch wasn't strong, but the library they built and the franchises in the PS2 era, borderline unrivaled.
Well, there are a couple of factors for that. Number one, Sega was gone.
Sega was gone.
And a lot of third-party developers didn't want to deal with Nintendo's bullshit. So
now, when you say Sega, bullshit, what do you mean by that?
Well, just like I think the GameCube was a notoriously difficult platform to program for. Again, you've got all these space limitations because of the proprietary disc format of the GameCube. All these things add up to just being a headache for developers, I take it. Whereas on the PlayStation 2, like it's like, you know, you got the size you need. It's an architecture you're familiar with. Like, I think it just became a haven for developers, which is very funny because I think in the next generation, the exact opposite thing happens. But we'll get there.
I will also say that, and this is probably my final point that I need to make, Teebs, you've been playing it. What is the single greatest horror thriller game of all time? I know you're going to say Alien Isolation, but fuck it. Just say what I'm leaning to.
Silent Hill 2, fine. Yes,
that's right.
Hill 2.
You want to know what system Silent Hill 2 debuted on? That's right, the PlayStation 2.
There's a lot of other games on the PS2 that I think deserve mention. The Warriors by Rockstar.
The Warriors.
Which, hey, Rockstar.
Yeah, where's the yeah?
How about a remake or an update? Let's do something.
Come on. There's got to be an anniversary of the Warriors coming up, where like you can throw out like a 50th anniversary of the game or something, whatever.
Until then, I'll just continue pirating it. That's a joke. That's a joke, NSA.
That's a joke. That's a joke, NSA. That total joke.
Comedy. That's what that is. Comedic element. I mean, you can gauge for yourself the comedic content, but still, it was meant as a joke.
Also, another
anything else on the PS.
Funny you say that. I'm gonna bring it up. The unquestioned best in a franchise. So, like I said, Silent Hill 2 unequivocally best in the Silent Hill franchise.
Sure.
The other unquestioned best in the franchise. And you can debate this with me if you want, but
actually, Silent Hill 3 and 4 on PlayStation are also pretty great. But
Metal Gear Solid 2.
Oh, 2. You're going with 2.
Yes. Metal Gear Solid 2 is the unquestioned best in that franchise.
I disagree. I think
really?
I think Metal Gear Solid 2 is the most poignant and has the most to say. I think Metal Gear Solid 3 is the best. It's the most game of those games.
It's the most complete of
It's the
the
most, yeah,
franchise.
it's the most video game as storytelling medium. It's the pinnacle of Hideo Kojima video game as storytelling medium. Metal Gear Solid 3. Metal Gear Solid 2, there's a ton of very important shit that's being said in that game, and I would urge you to, if you have the capabilities, to replay it.
It is
Because that game has a lot to say about our
the
relationship with AI, our relationship with each other, our
military
relationship with
the industrial
politics.
complex.
um, but yeah, Metal Gear Solid 3 also has some poignant things to say, but it's more straight up of what you are actually wanting when you buy a Metal Gear Solid game. Let's also not forget Splinter Cell.
Splinter Cell is in there. But
Uh,
when you compare to Metal Gear Solid, like I don't know one person that preferred Splinter Cell to MGS.
well, they're doing different things. Splinter Cell is like trying to be a like realistic spy espionage deal. Metal Gear Solid is just using the spy espionage clothing to tell stories about other things, which
Now
I think makes it a better franchise. But
now when you say clothing, do you mean cardboard boxes that you can hide underneath?
cardboard boxes, camo, Raiden masks, whatever you can find.
Okay, so Teebs obviously disagrees with me about the PlayStation 2. So I'm honestly wondering which console he's bringing to the table. So I kind of want to hear that now.
The console I am bringing to the table is the Xbox 360, which I think might be the greatest
Wow.
console ever.
I did not think this was
Yeah.
where you would be going at all. Make your case.
Okay, so the criteria you set up was what exactly are the criteria we're going for here?
I didn't
Because if
necessarily
we're just
have like
talking
a
about
formal criteria. It was just kind of, you know, notes and nuggets that I put together. So the state of gaming when the Xbox 360 came out. So obviously you have PlayStation 2, GameCube is in there, and I think that's pretty much it.
all right, so if we were to try to assess the state of gaming for that fifth generation, it would have been the fifth
That's
generation.
fifth generation, yeah.
That would have been 360, PS3, and Wii.
Right.
The PS2 establishes. I think what happens with the PS2 is it kind of erases the stigma of video games being something that dorks do in their basements, and then
Wow.
kind of moves it into the mainstream of a hobby that everybody can enjoy
Okay.
in their basement. But
Oh, Jesus. Why? Why would you? Never mind. Just power through it. Keep going.
But also, yeah, by the time the Xbox 360 comes around, I don't think anybody is, ashamed or feels weird in any way about video gaming. This is when giant studios have giant money to make giant games.
With giant set pieces and all like that stuff.
Right, with giant set pieces, because Rockstar and a lot of other developers had proven on the PS2 that it was viable storytelling medium and a money maker. So a lot of money was thrown at this generation of games. Like I said before, whereas Sony won that generation by being the de facto place where it was easiest for developers and programmers to make games, that was the 360 in this generation, because the PlayStation 2 in the PlayStation 3 with its architecture made some decisions that made it a console that was more difficult to program for.
PlayStation 3 infamously difficult to program for, as evidenced by, I guess, not necessarily their lack of a library, but it was a lot of platforming.
And just another thing, the lack of ports.
Lack of ports.
Like, there's so many games that just never got ported to PS3. So many Xbox games that were not exclusive, like the like Grand Theft. I'm not sure that I'm not positive on this, but I don't think Grand Theft 4 ever made it to PlayStation 3.
I don't think it did. Not until like way, way, way later.
Not until way later. So if you want to talk about some games that the system has, let's talk about it. We're talking about Halo 3, Modern Warfare, Gears, Arkham City, Portal 2, Red Dead Redemption, Mass Effect, the Orange Box, but Xbox doesn't get to have the Orange Box. That's a PC thing.
That's a PC thing. I'll give you.
But the Xbox, just a second. But the Xbox does get to have BioShock, Grand Theft 4, Grand Theft 5. That's right, folks. Grand Theft 5 was an Xbox 360 title, and a little game called Skyrim.
Skyrim was like that new thing that like all the WoW kids just kind of moved over to, and were just like, you know what, I'm going to jump on this for a while.
This is how good you can play that game today.
You can play that game right now. Like, you don't have to play like Baldur's Gate 3. I would recommend it for sure, but you don't have to.
Only if you are a D&D nerd should you play Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay, all right, unnecessary shot, but continue.
Are you talking about it as an... No, okay, so that's just the games that were available to purchase via physical media, but don't forget, Xbox 360 had a very robust downloadable content market.
The digital.
Robust. Not to mention the XBLA was great stuff. They had old PS2 titles, they had original titles, and if you want to talk about PS3, Xbox 360 played DVDs, but it didn't matter because Xbox 360 had Netflix.
Yeah. And not only all of that, but one thing I will say about the Xbox 360, it paved the way for what online gaming is now.
It is the first console that realized the promise of online gaming. PS2 had problems because the PSN was not what it is today in that generation. Xbox Live was pretty...
It did help the 360 the fact that it had like Microsoft, which was, a company known for like computers and shit, to like put something like that together.
So, what is Sony? Chop liver?
Yeah, but like Sony, it's like they're entertainment. They're like TVs and audio, not necessarily like PC building and networking.
They make TVs. True.
Nobody's networking with their TVs.
They don't do anything with networking, but I don't know. If you ask a networking guy, I'm pretty sure they would be like, Microsoft doesn't know networking either.
Okay, so let's just put that on the list. Shots at Microsoft. Okay. So you realize with that comment that you made, neither of us are going to. We're not going to any Clippers games at the new stadium in Inglewood anytime soon. That's basically what you're saying.
I wouldn't be going there anyway. Not for a Clippers game.
Teebs hates.
Here's
Steve
how good.
Ballmer. Okay.
Here's how good the the Xbox 360 is. You know people that did this. I know people that did this. They had consoles. Okay, the very first Xbox 360s off the assembly line were not great. Had a lot of problems.
The red circle of death.
There's some people that I know that had 360s that just bricked. And bought new 360s. That is unheard of.
That is unheard of. Yeah.
Unheard of. You have a console that craps out on you and you buy the exact same console? That has never happened.
I'll give you that. Like, the wanting to have the 360, like the fact that like it was something that was so hyped and something that was... I will say this about the 360.
It's not that
360
it was hype. It was that you had to have it. You
Yeah.
had to. It was the best game in town.
I think that the 360 probably had some of the best marketing of any console. Pretty sure.
How's that? What was the marketing pitch for 360? We've got Halo.
Well, part of it. Between some of the commercials that were being run at launch time, there's just like big, almost look like stadiums, and then like the new insignia would come on, or just like hyping up the Xbox Live network. That was just something that appealed to a lot of people at the time.
Now, I do have to say that...
And then backwards compatibility kind of sold it for a lot of people, too.
Backwards compatibility was a big deal. Although there weren't that many Xbox titles that people were trying to play. Like, the other two Halo games, but...
Which every fucking company has ignored since then.
Except for Nintendo.
Except for Nintendo. Nintendo's still out here giving the people what they want. So thank you. Props to you guys, Nintendo.
Yeah, it really sucks that I actually have a disc of the Warriors and I can't play it on anything except my PS2, which I can't. I have tons of DualShock 3s, no DualShock 2s. Useless. Nothing I can do with that.
The hell? Never mind. We're just gonna gloss over that one. That little factoid.
But yeah, I think between the library of incredible games, we're talking about some of the best games ever with Skyrim and GTA 5 and Rock Band 2. And,
Rock Band 2.
Let's not forget the Assassin's Creed games. All the good ones are on 360. Dead Space is on there. What else is on there? Alien Isolation is on there.
There it is. I was wondering when that was coming.
The Far Cry series. Hold on, the Far Cry series, the Borderlands series.
Borderlands started on 360.
Incredible library.
I have said my shit. I have talked my shit. I've stood on business about Call of Duty, but I will say, when Modern Warfare 2 and 3 came out for the 360, I ran them bitches into the ground. I'm not gonna lie. The campaigns were awesome. I didn't do too much with the multiplayer because
that's what everybody is crying about. They wish that the games today were as good as those two games.
Yeah. Me included. I gave Black Ops 6 a run just because, it was free to download. So I gave it a shot. And the campaign mode, I'll say this about it. The campaign mode in Black Ops 6 is probably the best campaign mode of the last 10 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't want to talk about too much, but like it's got the nice like 1980s CIA element to it, and like I'm into that. I'm into that level of storytelling. So like for once, golf clap. Well done. Well done, people who were responsible for Black Ops 6.
So that's just physical games. Then XBLA, Xbox Live, the community functions, for better for worse, were better than anything we got going now, for sure.
With our propensity for a specific genre of game, right? Is it fair to say that the 360, that generation, probably had the best library of fighting titles? Because with
Street
the download,
4, Ultimate 3,
with downloadable, you also got Street Fighter 3, which we didn't really have post Dreamcast.
True. That was the fighting game dark era when there was nothing but CVS 2 until Street Fighter 4 came out in 2009. In 08?
08 was Street Fighter 4, yeah. Like we ran like all of the Capcom fighting collections just to make sure that we could, if we wanted to play Alpha, we could play that. If we wanted to play Street Fighter 3, we could play that. Like we ran them all. We ran the whole damn thing. And that just goes to serve to like the downloadable games aspect. I think sure, Xbox 360 has PS2 on lock, but what I will state is that the 360 definitely had the opportunity to build that integration and that infrastructure to make that happen. PlayStation 2, for what it was at the time, very innovative, probably the best console of Gen 5, I guess we're talking about. With the argument.
That's not an argument. PS2 is clearly the best console of that generation. The argument is, if you were stuck on a deserted island, I guess if I'm on a deserted island, I can't download any XBLA games, and
that's the problem, right? You're limited to what Netflix. You can. You're limited to what you can bring with you. So if I have a PlayStation 2 and Metal Gear Solid 2 and Silent Hill 2, a couple of Grand Theft Autos, I'm good to go for a while. And my diehard DVD box set, I'm good to go.
If I have an Xbox 360 and GTA 5 and Skyrim, that's it. I'm set for life.
All right, so now...
Wait, I have GTA 5, Skyrim, and the 3 Mass Effect games, I'm in business.
All right, maybe now we should just leave it to our listeners. That's a good question. That's how we'll leave this podcast. You're stuck on a deserted island. You can only have one of these two systems. It's the PlayStation 2 or the Xbox 360. Which one would you rather have? I think that is a good way to end this debate right here. And then we'll see who wins. And if it's you, then I'll think that you stuffed the voting box. And if it's me, then I'll win graciously.
Too soon.
All right. On that note, interesting, fun days ahead, fun times ahead, but we will be here to get you through them. Like, follow, subscribe to the podcast, follow us on social media. I should make a small announcement regarding our social media. If you're looking to get in touch with me specifically, personally, you're gonna have to do it on that other social media site, Blue Sky, because I am officially off Twitter. I'm done. I'm off Twitter. I'm
finally.
No, shut up. I'm on Twitter for the podcast only, and that's it. I am on Blue Sky. I'm still trying to get Teebs to come on to Blue Sky. Come on to Blue Sky. The water's great.
Send me another invite. I will come on. All
right. It's great. Also, I will say this about Blue Sky. I'll hook you up with some of the starter packs for artists, and you can get in contact with some of those guys and just trade information. Friend of the podcast, Vince, is on Blue Sky. So I mean, what else you need to know?
I did not know that. So yes,
I will send Teebs an invite to Blue Sky. We will have a Blue Sky for the podcast soon. That's coming within the next week and a half or so. I've been talking to our social media person, and they are going to get at that. Outside of that,
a social media person?
Yeah, we have a social media. I thought that's what you were asking. I thought that was part of Connie's internship.
No, her internship's over, by the way, pretty soon.
Oh, really? Oh, it is. Mm-hmm. It is almost the end of the semester.
Yeah,
I thought it was only. I thought you got it for the entire academic year. You only got it for fall 24.
No, just listen. Yeah,
that's a shame.
Fall.
That's a shame.
Yeah, well, there's always intern.
Wow. So we'll get all that information to you, and all links will be in the descriptions, and we will be chatty once again next week. Until next week, everybody, we're going to get out of here. Vote who won this argument. All on the socials. Talk to everybody next week. We're out of here.